everyone, and welcome to our Growth Strategies webinar this morning. Thanks for spending your time with us this morning during your busy day. My name's Karen Bowness. I'm the Marketing Manager here at MedTech, and I'll be the webinar moderator this morning. Can everyone hear me okay? Just if you're having problems with sound, I guess if you can't hear me, you won't be able to do that, but pop in a question just to let me know if you're having issues with hearing us. With me today, I have Stephen Makarunas from a private practice. He's a practice growth expert and the founding partner of the private practice. He's going to be sharing his expertise with us today. Hello, Stephen.
Good morning, everybody. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. And of course, we have MedTech's resident technology guru and national sales manager, Ben LaGrosse, who's going to be covering off the technology side of practice growth. So good morning, Ben.
Morning all, how are you?
I'm great, thanks. Okay, now I'd like to introduce you to Stephen. Stephen Makarunas has over 30 years experience providing education and advice to healthcare professionals. He holds a Bachelor of Commerce, a Diploma of Financial Planning, and is the founding partner of the Private Practice, Australia's premier medico-specific educator. Okay, over to you, Stephen.
Okay. Can everybody hear me?
I
guess you can't. Great. Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Stephen Makarunas. I'm Head of Education and Managing Editor of the Private Practice. I've been providing business and financial education for doctors for 30 years. And I have to say, over this time, I've developed a very deep passion for helping doctors address the value of their lives. My very strong contention is that unless a doctor, and when I say doctor, I actually mean the broader sense, a healthcare professional. So please forgive me if I'm using the term doctor throughout this presentation, but I'm including all of you that work in healthcare as professional clinicians and managers. My strong contention is that unless a doctor embraces the business person within, unless a doctor digs out and nourishes the entrepreneur that's dying to get out, they will find it very hard to be successful in life. Very hard to be successful in terms of truly effectively delivering on the promise that they set out to deliver to the community that they're there to serve, and very difficult for them to achieve lifestyle success, true work-life balance. And we'll talk more about that as I proceed. So we're talking today about the following. We're talking about practice growth, but the four key issues I want to talk about are the importance of having a vision, a purpose. We need to understand, what are we growing for and what are we growing into? I want to talk about the role of marketing. And I'm going to talk about marketing as something different to what most of you may think it is. We're going to talk about systems. It's all about systems. And then ultimately business planning, putting together the roadmap that will allow you to get from where you are now to where you want to go. Now, of course, I should say at the beginning, with 30 minutes, it's impossible to cover all the issues that relate to practice growth strategies. In fact, we run a course, a practice and personal growth strategies course, and it's a full 2 days. And even then, we're sort of scraping the surface. So this is a Herculean task that I've been set, and I'll do my hardest to give you some of the insights that I've developed and present to over the years. I'd like to start by showing you this quote. It's one of my favorite quotes, and it's from Michael Gerber, one of the world's preeminent commentators on what it takes for businesses, small businesses in particular, to be successful. And I'm going to give you some time to read that. And while you're doing that, I'm going to talk over it slightly and say that he's absolutely right when he says that a business is like a child. And when we're business owners, we need to think of that business as a child of ours, a child that we are charged with the responsibility for its development, for its growth. We're responsible for nurturing it and supporting it. And in a way, molding it. I know this sounds a bit overbearing, but molding it, and certainly when it comes to the business, to mold it into what we're trying to achieve, what our vision is. I love the last bit there, to infuse it with purpose, passion, will, belief, personality, and method. Really, really important. A really important take-home, theme here, that we understand what is our purpose. And then when we do understand that, to bring to our practice passion, will, belief, and personality. And then method, because the method is all about the how. So if we can talk again, a bit of a positioning statement about having the right thinking. If we're interested in growing our practices, then we need to start thinking strategically, not just tactically. We need to start working on our practice, not just in our practice. As healthcare professionals, I know you're good at hard work. It's hard work that's got you to where you are now. It's hard work that's made you the success you are now. You've got into medical school, you've got into the training program, you've succeeded there, and you've set up a practice, perhaps most of you, and that all takes a lot of hard work. And one of the unfortunate things in the medical world is that you continue to believe that all you need to do is work hard. Well, I suggest that if that's all you're doing, then you're not truly achieving success, because success requires working smart, working strategically, working on the practice. And until we start thinking that way, we're not going to grow. So another positioning statement I'd like to make is this issue of, what are the distinct levels of work required within any business, but in particular within a medical practice, for it to be positioned for growth. We know starting at the bottom that we need the technicians, and that's you, and the others that work within your practice that are the clinicians, the doers of the work. And that's, of course, crucial. That's, that is our product. But if we want a practice that's growing, if we want a practice that continues to effectively and efficiently deliver on its promise, then we need for the business of the business to be taken care of. That should not be done by you, the principal. That should be done by a manager. And when I say manager, I'm not talking about a glorified, receptionist that we've promoted to practice manager and handles the administrative aspects of the practice. That's important. We need admin to happen efficiently. But I'm talking about a manager whose job it is, a true business manager, whose job it is to take your vision, and I'll talk about that in a moment, and develop the systems, the policies and the procedures and the everyday operating model to turn that vision into reality. And then we've got the entrepreneur at the top. Now, that sounds like a scary word. I doubt that many of you listening now chose to enter medicine and in order to be entrepreneurs. And, and I'm not suggesting here you need to be a Richard Branson or, God forbid, a Donald Trump. But an entrepreneur is crucial to the successful growth of a practice. And really all an entrepreneur is an owner with a vision. An owner that's asking the question, is there a better way? There's got to be a better way. What is that better way? Someone that understands that you are a business that is purpose-driven, not just profit-driven. And that's the role that I expect and hope that those that are wanting to grow their practices will grow into. So let's talk more about that. The concept of moving from thought to action, and the things I'm going to talk about today are, yes, as stated in the advertised material, we're going to talk about marketing, we're going to talk about systems, policies and procedures, we're going to talk about a business plan that wraps all that around. But it all starts with a purpose, it all starts with a vision, and each of these aspects of the process, the roadmap to growth are in fact quite symbiotic. Let's look at purpose. Another Greek a long time ago, far smarter than me, said this: give me a place to stand and a lever long enough and I will move the world. Well, look, that to me is a statement that is absolutely perfectly developed and written for doctors. There's no profession for whom this statement is more true for me. The place that you stand is a very powerful place. It's a place that speaks of your commitment to your profession, to your training, to the commitment to your education, to a strong commitment to the community that you've promised to serve. The lever that will propel you from the place that you stand to not only growing your practice, but literally changing the world, is a sound understanding and implementation of fundamental principles in business and financial management. You know, if considering growth, then we need to understand and articulate where it is that you stand, what your purpose is. Again, as I say, in other words, what are you growing for and what are you growing into? So I want to unpack this concept of purpose. And I'd love for you, please, all, after this session, whether it be sometime later in the day or in the evening over a glass of wine or beverage of choice, and answer these questions for yourself. You cannot grow unless you know what your purpose is, what your vision is, and what you want to grow into, and what you're growing for. So you've got to ask yourself and answer these questions. What do I stand for? What's my vision? What is the purpose of my practice? What is the promise to the community that I serve? How do I better meet the needs of the healthcare consumer? Now, this is really important. What are the demands that are not being met? You know, we hear of and we see disruption in almost every industry out there in the community. And these organizations that are disrupting have at the core of their business, and the question they're asking is there a better way? Are there demands that are not being met? You know, these are the questions that the people who developed Uber asked. Is there a better way? What are the demands that are not being met by the person who needs to get from A to B? And so many other industries. This needs to be asked in medicine today. We then need to ask questions like, why should they come to me? What's my point of differentiation? What do I need to do for my patients and referrers to become raving advocates of my practice? You want to grow? If you want to grow as a practice, you will not grow unless the service that you're offering, unless the experience that you're offering your patients is one that allows them to walk out and say, wow, my expectations were not only met, they were exceeded. Do you think they're going to talk about their to their colleagues, to their friends? Do you think a referrer into your practice is not going to talk to other professionals and other potential referrers about the amazing service, the amazing experience they're getting? We can't grow if all we're doing is the same as what we did yesterday. We've got to reimagine. And very importantly, we grow off the back of the hard work and the commitment and the dedication and the effectiveness of our team. So what do I need to do to attract the best talent to join me? I want to give you an example of a healthcare business that did that and that is doing that and doing that really well. Asana. And some of you may have heard of these guys, but Asana, you know, is healthcare reimagined. Asana to the world appears like a GP practice, but it is so more. Asana is a group of medical practices that has asked those questions. Most importantly, what are the unmet demands? What are the unmet needs? What do we truly exist for? You know, they are an organization, they are a set of GP practices that have a very clear mission, a very well articulated mission, that they're about wellness. They're about proactive service. They're about a proactive and collaborative relationship with their patients. Let's move on. You know, they talk about what makes them different is compassion. What makes them different is a collaborative model around how they look after and relate to and interact with their patient base. They talk about and have as part of their model convenience. They talk about clinical outcomes and focusing on achieving better results. You know, things like daily tracking of clinical outcomes and quality measures, independent quality assessment of our model of care, patient feedback incorporated regularly into the clinical care. Can you see how they have thought about the questions that I've asked you to think about and are delivering, reimagining and delivering a different set of services and products and outcome and relationship? And to me, this is marketing at its best. So we're leading to the question of what is marketing. For me, marketing is everything, and everything is marketing. And yet, unfortunately, in the medical world, the concept of marketing has developed a bad word, a bad reputation. And simply because people don't understand what it is. Contrary to popular belief, marketing is not advertising. Contrary to popular belief, marketing is not about, I have a product, what do I need to do to convince you to buy it? Marketing is a much more noble activity than that. Marketing is the reverse of that. Marketing asks the question, what are the needs that are not being met? What are the services that are required? Where, in the case of healthcare, are we failing patients? Where in healthcare are we not delivering, an exemplary service, an exemplary experience, and leaving patients fully satisfied? Now, of course, we can't always do that from a clinical perspective. But if you think that your practice's role and job is purely to provide a clinical experience, a clinical outcome, then you're sadly mistaken, and you will be, find it hard and will struggle to truly grow your practice. We can't always cure everybody, but the experience that they have in interacting with your practice in every single aspect of their relationship with you is what they're looking for. And we'll talk more about what patients need in a moment. Let's look at what the AMA's definition of marketing is. Now, mind you, that's not your AMA. That's the Australian Marketing Association. So it is a little bit more, I think, a proactive and beneficial sort of definition here. But marketing is the activity, set of institutions and processes for creating, communicating and delivering value and managing customer relationships that benefits customers, clients, partners and society at large. Just think about that. Creating, communicating and delivering value. Doesn't say anything about advertising or selling something. Managing customer relationships in ways that benefit customers and the society at large. That's a much more expansive view and understanding of what marketing really is. Let me give you another couple of definitions. Again, I mentioned Gerber, and I love this quote from him. Marketing communicates your promise, what differentiates yours from every other practice, but it also focuses on the way your practice delivers that promise. So can you see, marketing is not about pretty brochures and ads in magazines. That's part of it, but it's about communicating your promise. It's about differentiating your practice from others. And this next bit's really, really important. Marketing focuses on the way your practice delivers that promise. We're now starting to talk about the product that you deliver, the service that you deliver. Somebody else said this about marketing. It's the megaphone that helps you shout to the world who you are and what you stand for. Now, not every doctor loves to stand on a soapbox and boast and beat their chest and say, I'm the best, you should come to me. In fact, we're not saying you should do that. In fact, AHPRA stops you from being able to do that. It's not allowed. But you need to communicate in every aspect of how you interface with your patients, with your community, with your referrers, what it is that you stand for, what your practice is about, what your purpose is, what your vision is, how you want to change the face of medicine as it relates to your practice, the experience that you want your patients to walk away with and your referrers to walk away with. That's what marketing does. I want to give you some 6 practical tips around effective medical marketing. First and foremost, branding. Your practice name, your practice logo, materials and style guide. I used Asana as a great example of a based on understanding what's needed to disrupt the industry and to reimagine it. Notice that practice isn't called Dr. Joe Smith Medical Practice or GP Practice or Dr. John Lambros Cardiology. It is a name that allows for growth. Osana, by the way, means to save, to rescue or savior. Even a practice like, for example, Brisbane Cardiology is much better than having 3 or 4 practice principals' names. Why? Because you speak about what it is that you do and where you are. You speak about through your brand, through your name, the experience that people want to achieve and what your values are. Very difficult to grow if your practice is your own name. Well, difficult to attract partners, difficult sometimes to attract younger associates to work in the practice with the view to or path to partnership and equity one day. You need a name that is more expansive and inclusive and speaks of who you are. We run a whole session on this. I haven't got the time today, but that's just a tip, something to consider. Step 2, become an education source. Look, if you take just one thing out of our webinar today, it should be this, that you need to understand that healthcare consumers today, in 2019 and beyond, are craving information. They are craving education and understanding. They want a seat at the table with respect to the decisions around their healthcare and around their wellness and the management of their lives. Gone are the days where they simply, show up at the doctor and the doctor says, "Trust me, I'm the doctor, do what I say." Why do you think the concept of Dr. Google is burgeoning, is blossoming? And I'm sure all of you hate that because it's clients trying to self-diagnose. But what it tells you, 1, it's not going away. 2, what it should tell you, and the lesson from what's happening with the internet and Google and all of this, is that patients need information, they need education, that they crave it, they are researching before they come and see you. And that may be difficult for you in a way, but my suggestion is, if you can't beat them, join them. Become that subject matter expert. Look at the various platforms that allow you to push out to the world what you know, who you are, your areas of specialization. And how you do that is through having a website that is an education tool. It's an online publishing hub, through the use of newsletters and social media. It's not difficult to rank highly through search optimization strategies that are built on, and they can be relatively organic. You don't necessarily need to pay for them. But you can be the person who pops up whenever anybody has a question to ask about, hand therapy, or when someone's got a question to ask about, a specific cancer. How do you do that? Focus on becoming an educator. Deliver your content, your information, your education from that perspective of being the educator, the subject matter expert. And there are plenty of platforms, both digital as well as face-to-face, through running education events for your referrers, for your patients, and for your community. Your practice should be set up not just as a place to see patients and to provide clinical services, but also as an education forum. You need to be able to set it up in such a way that you invite people, your patient base, your referrers, the community at large, to hear you speak on the areas that you're a specialist in. Can't overestimate how important this is. If you want to differentiate yourself, the most powerful way in 2019 and beyond is to be that subject matter expert. Step 3, website, really important. Anybody that's in healthcare that doesn't have a website today is viewed by the healthcare consumer as a laggard. They're viewed as someone who can't be up to date with respect to the latest on clinical knowledge, because they're not up to date with respect to how to communicate and engage with the patient base. Not enough to be good at what you do. You need to be able to demonstrate that. It needs to be obvious. And your digital footprint is crucial here. Don't be cheap. You need a state-of-the-art website. It needs to be a website that's more than just an electronic business card. It needs to be an electronic publishing hub. It needs to be an education resource center. You need to educate your referrers, and we'll talk about that in a moment, but you need to educate your referrers to direct their patients to your website and to specific parts of the website that show your knowledge and understanding of the condition that the GP or the referrer thinks that they have, and how you go about treating that and educating them and providing a care plan around that. So really, really important that you understand what an effective growth tool your website can be. Speaking of websites, what do Australians do when they have health issues? Well, I can tell you, 8 out of 10 new patients will visit your website before visiting you. And if what they see there seems out of date, if what they see there seems static, if there hasn't been anything added to that since 2005, if it looks like something that your nephew put together in high school when he was doing a subject on web design, that's going to speak to the quality of the medical service that comes out of your practice. It's not true that they should be linked, but patients will do that. Patients make decisions on purchasing or accepting treatment plans or what have you based on what we in marketing call proxy perceptions. They've got no way of judging the clinical efficacy that comes out of your practice, but they can make decisions and judgments based on their experience of meeting with your practice in its physical state, but also your practice in its digital state, and that's what your website is. Sixth tip for effective medical marketing, your newsletter. Really, really important that, again, you take on this role of the educator, of the information provider around your subject of expertise. A newsletter delivered to your patients, and perhaps even broader, there's no reason why. Local papers these days and community papers are dying for content. If you approach them and said, I'll write a monthly article on medical issues as it relates to your area of expertise, your website may be one way of delivering it electronically to your patient base. What it does is it builds and maintains your community. It drives people to your website. It gives the community what they want: information, education, and a sense of belonging. The better medical and healthcare practices, the ones that grow, understand that what works is to build a community around that practice. Not just to have a relationship that's a transactional one. Oh, I'm sick, I go, they prescribe some drugs or some therapy, and I'm out of there. Or it's a one-off transaction, for example. Sorry to put it in commercial terms, such as I'm pregnant, I need my baby delivered, I'm going to the obstetrician, and after the meetings and the appointments and the consultations leading up to it and the delivery, the relationship's over. There are obstetrics practices that understand that I need to build a community around existing and past patients, because past patients can be patients again or be great referrers. So they offer education, ongoing education, not just leading up to the delivery, but post-delivery as well as services. And another time, hopefully I'll be invited to present again. I'll talk to you about some of what those other ongoing services can be that fall outside of the traditional clinical model. Social media. Look, a lot of doctors view this as a very negative thing. I think it's extremely positive. A lot of doctors say that, why should I provide a platform for people to complain about me that will be seen by the world? My view is, if people are complaining about you, you need to know that and hear that and deal with it publicly. More importantly, social media allows you to, again, build a community. It allows you to regularly communicate with your patients. It allows you to regularly communicate with the world at large, to continue to speak and promote and shout to the world who you are and what you stand for. Again, we don't have time to go through this in a lot of detail, but we have a whole day course on marketing and community engagement, and social media features very strongly there. Strongly urge you, if you don't have a Facebook page, if you're not communicating with your colleagues and the broader profession via LinkedIn, then you're doing yourself a disservice. Step 6, become referable. It sounds obvious, but if you are not every day of the week, and if your manager isn't every day of the week asking the question, what are the activities that we need to do today? How do we need to interact with our patients? How do we need to interact with our referrers such that we become more referable, such that we deepen and expand our referral network, such that we are fostering ambassadors and raving advocates within our patient base of our practice? If you're not doing that every day, then you're not doing the things that are required to achieve growth within your practice. So that customer experience is crucial, and it's everything from how the phone is answered. It's, things like how do you, what kind of practice software have you got that enables online bookings? It's everything from your practice fit out and how welcoming and comfortable it is. It's even down to something that doctors and healthcare professionals find very hard to achieve, but being on time, really important. So the customer experience is everything. Second, in this becoming referable, ask for the referral. If you want to grow, don't be shy, ask for the referral. That is the largest, the most common mistake that doctors and healthcare professionals make around this issue of referral. They simply don't ask for it. Think of a nice way of asking it. Think of a way of asking it that doesn't sound like you're desperate, but ask for the referral. Look, Mrs. Jones, if you've had a pleasant experience today, if you think we've helped you, if you enjoy coming here and you think we are doing a good job, I'd love for you to tell your friends and colleagues. We're putting on a new doctor or a new therapist or what have you. They start pretty soon, and we're keen to fill their book up. We're keen to make them as busy as possible. So we've got capacity, and would love to see more people. And then reward the referral. I'm not suggesting tacky things here that are not consistent with your ethics and your brand, but rewarding the referral might be as simple as a handwritten letter posted. Thank you so much for referring Mrs. Smith. We really appreciate your faith in our practice. We really appreciate the fact that you think enough of us and have enough confidence in us to believe that we will do the right thing by your family and by your friends and by your colleagues. So we really appreciate that. And if you want to add a couple of gold class tickets to the latest movie in town, by all means. But I think simply saying thank you, acknowledging that is really important, and not just for your patients, of course, but also your referrers. Whole other subject to talk about how do you deepen and how do you broaden your referral network. A simple tip here is ask them what they want. Often what they want is a more professional relationship. For the specialists listening in, visit your GPs and talk to them. And it isn't about a bottle of wine at Christmas at the end of the year or a fruit hamper. Those things may be nice, but what they want more than that is a collaborative, professional relationship. And unfortunately, we've run so many of these courses over the years, and we ask the GPs in the room, we ask the specialists in the room, the GPs will always say, I'm not communicated to properly. There's no acknowledgement that the patient is my patient, and I need to be kept informed proactively and promptly about what's going on. So that's a whole other topic. I'm now going to move to systems, policies, and procedures, and I think I've been rambling, and I don't know that I've got a lot of time. I haven't been watching my watch, but I'm going to try to get through this as quickly as I can to offer Ben his full time. Here what we're talking about essentially is a template for how you do things. Systems, policies, and procedures are really a systematic way of ensuring via documented process how you do things in your practice, such that you're not operating on controlled chaos, but that there is an answer for and a solution for and a process for everything you do in the practice. It's really important that your practice is systems dependent, not people dependent. People come and go. Very difficult to keep people, particularly in this day and age. If all the knowledge of how you do things is in the head of, Mary the receptionist or or John, the practice manager, and they leave or they have an accident and they're gone. How are you going to do things there? For me, the McDonald's metaphor is brilliant. One of the most successful businesses in the world, McDonald's, has a store at the end of every street, in cities and in suburbs and so on. And these are multi-million-dollar businesses, every single franchise, and they're run by teenagers. In fact, you could put trained monkeys in there and they would achieve the same results, the same quality burgers. Now, I'm not an advocate of McDonald's, and I'm not suggesting that you want to produce, healthcare outcomes of the same quality of the food that comes out of McDonald's. But what I do love about McDonald's is that there's no thinking required around the day-to-day, delivery of what they do. It's all systematized. The more your practice does what it does based on systems, policies, and procedures, the more you will produce predictable results. And that's what you need to achieve. Now, medical practices are not fast food chains, and things are different all the time, and you can't predict every thing that's going to happen in there. But the more we have a way of doing things, the more everybody understands that and is trained in that, the more efficient your practice will be, and the better it will be placed to grow. And I've got to tell you, if one of the results of growth for you is to get to a point where you attract other partners, associates, and maybe one day a buyer of the practice or buyers of the practice, they could come from within the practice or externally. You're going to get a much better price. You're going to get you're going to be more attractive to an associate wanting to buy into a practice if that practice is run based on well-documented and adhered to systems, policies, and procedures. It becomes less dependent on you and more dependent on the way you do things. A tip here is that you need to spend some time to go away on a retreat of a practice growth retreat of your own, or if you'd like, to work with us, we can help facilitate that sort of thing. But you need to give yourself the headspace to say, how do we want to do things? What's the gold standard of how things are done in our practice? Very effective tool here is to work with a medical practice management consultant to help distill all of that, to give you their thoughts and their views from the experience that they've had over the years with working with hundreds of other practices, and guide you in developing those systems and procedures. There's a direct relationship between your vision, your manager, and your systems. As the principal, as the entrepreneur, as the visionary, it's your job to communicate what the business is supposed to look like, the picture of the business when it's finally done. And it's your manager who takes that vision and develops an implementation strategy that develops the systems, policies, and procedures, the day-to-day activities that will lead to you achieving your desired results and your goals. I'm going to move on to business planning. Apologies for that image. It's the only one I could find. It's the first one that popped up when I Googled the image of medical business planning. By the way, I think medical marijuana is a business for the future. And if any of you are interested in being involved in this, I know many investors who are dying to find the right clinicians to help them build these businesses. So that's an aside. Business planning is not as complicated, need not be as complicated as many people think it is and as many people embark to implement. Business planning is really about determining what you choose to do in your practice and the way you choose to do it, and most importantly, by when. It's really the roadmap that helps you to get from where you are now to where you want to go. It's a document that's broken down into several subheadings: marketing plan, operational plan, financial plan, and an implementation schedule. It's a document that spells all this out, and there's subheadings under each of these. But you decide on your vision, you figure out what the systems, what your marketing concept is, what you exist for, what your product and service offering is based on what you exist for and what your purpose is. And then you put together a business plan to achieve it based on these elements. It's really, not that complicated. It needs to be something that's flexible. It needs to be something that's a living, breathing document, and it needs to be referred to in regular meetings with all of your people, particularly a business manager whose role really is to put it together. I've just covered a few of the things you need to consider, perhaps some of the most important aspects of, this journey for growth, vision, marketing in the true sense of the word, systems, policies and procedures, and a business plan that wraps all that up. We're just, skimming the surface of, the strategies that one can employ to truly grow. You need to consider things like, and what I've got up now is, all the pieces to the puzzle. A multi-part, if you're a solo practitioner, it's almost impossible to grow. You need to consider a multi-partner or group practice model. Consider employing doctors or having contracted healthcare professionals in your practice. If you're a GP or even a medical specialist, look to incorporate allied health within your practice. You need the best business manager that money can buy. You need to do work on expanding and deepening your relationship with your referrer network, and so on and so on. You can see lots of different pieces to the puzzle in this final slide here. It all starts with the things that we've talked about today, and eventually all of these things come together to paint the picture of the ideal, the thriving practice. Originally that slide said the saleable practice. I think the goal of every medical practice, every private practice should be that one day it will be sold, not just because there are financial benefits in the selling, and particularly if you consider the tax treatment of practice, business sale and superannuation, you can access the proceeds of sale of a practice capital gain tax free. If you know what you're doing and getting good advice, that's all important. But even more importantly, we want to strive towards a saleable practice, because a practice that is sale ready is a practice that works. So I now want to take a minute or two to talk a little bit about us, the private practice, who we are. We're an organization that is passionately committed to helping doctors, achieve the appropriate lifestyle for themselves. Why is that important? I've worked with doctors for over 30 years, and in particular, in the last 10 to 15 years, I've been working with doctors who are approaching retirement and interested in the concept of succession and how do they ensure that their money lasts longer than they do. And in working with a lot of these older doctors, and there may be some of you listening in right now who will agree with me here, when I asked some qualitative questions around their existence to date and their experience of working through to a point now where they're approaching retirement, every single one of them said to me when I asked the question around regret that my greatest regret, Steve, was that I didn't spend enough time with family. And that's a tragedy. That is an absolute tragedy. And yet even younger doctors starting out and healthcare professionals today seem to accept that that's going to be an inevitability for me too. So my answer to that is that's not right. It should not be the case. And so why we exist is to explain to doctors and to explain to healthcare professionals, if you want to go down a different path, if you want true success, if you want to look back on your working career and your life and say, I did spend enough time with family, I did have a good work-life balance, I had a great lifestyle, as well as being a great clinician, as well as delivering on my promise to the community that I set out to serve. If you want to achieve all of that, you need to embrace the business person within. You need to run your practice like a business. You need to start thinking and working like an entrepreneur. And we exist as an organization to provide education and information to help that happen. We're about helping you maintain balance in work and family life and providing the support and resources necessary for you to clarify and achieve your goals. We do that through courses, we do that through workshops, we do that through presentations at seminars, annual scientific meetings, medical conferences. What we're trying to achieve, our goal is to achieve this kind of learning outcome that you see on your screen now. We're about delivering an experience that not just provides good information, valuable information, but transforms people's lives. gives them a different way of thinking about their relationship between themselves and their practice, themselves and their family, themselves and their patients, to reimagine the way that they can work, to develop practices that work despite them, not just because of them. It's when you do that you can truly grow. I would love for you to attend our courses. We'll find a way of getting you material on our 2019 curriculum and beyond at the end of this program. I'd like to offer everyone that's participating today a significant MedTech webinar promotional discount. The registration fees for any of you attending any of our courses will be $660 as opposed to the regular $2,000 odd, significant savings. And there'll be an appropriate promotion code to access those. We'll get that to you in subsequent communication. But that's it from me. I hope you found it of value. I've probably gone over time. I don't know. I hope I haven't. I'd like to now introduce you to Ben LaGrosse. Ben's the National Sales Manager at MedTech, and he's going to present to the concept of software as a practice growth tool. Over to you, Ben.
I'll start back at the About MedTech slide, if everyone can hear me. MedTech's been in 5 countries where the solution is sold and supported and implemented. We have over 350 staff worldwide developing and supporting our product and our solutions. And we also connect over 1 million people using the MedTech solutions today. Our market coverage covers a range of specialities. We do normal general practice all the way down to national government organizations. Our solution is a complete solution. We are not just a practice management system. We offer a range of solutions, all embedded and built within our product range. What I'm going to do now is go through how this technology can drive your practice's growth. We've broken it up into 4 stages. Those 4 stages are increasing your customers, increasing your revenue, expanding your services, and reducing your costs. Increasing your customer numbers. Like Steve said in his presentation, online appointments are vital today. Everyone has a mobile phone, even my grandparents. They do online appointments at their current doctors. It is worth having online appointments integrated into your website. This will give you the range of time and more appointment spaces for patients. The amount of times I've run practices where the receptionist is sitting there, please hold for a minute, and she's trying to manage people at the desk and other phone calls. Make it easy for people to do their appointments online and not bank up the phone calls when their phones are really required. Engage patients and improve retention. Like Steve said, use newsletters. Use the data that you have in the practice about your patient. Send them newsletters. Let them know what you are doing around your region and area. Social media. Make sure you are out there and present. Show what you can do and what benefits you have in your practice and what other features you have. Reviews, like Steve said. Have reviews about patient experience. Show that your doctors have good interest in their patients and they actually enjoyed their time at the practice. That will bring more patients to your practice. And let Google find clients for you. Create the Google pages that link your online appointments, your reviews, your social media, and even your newsletter together into one thing that you can actually search for on Google. And the actual patients can click on and view details about you. Reducing the cost. Using systems to actually save money. Automate your reminders and recall. I've walked into practices and seen people sitting there with a piece of paper, drawing lines across their reminders and recalls. And it amazes me to know that you can actually use systems like ours to actually automate these processes so your nurses and your front desk people have more time to greet patients, answer the phones, do appointments, follow up on care plans. etc., etc. Kiosks for patient check-in. This also leads into patients waiting. You walk into a practice and you see a line at front desk. You've got people trying to pay their bill. You've got people trying to check in. And you've got people asking how long the doctor's going to be. Give them a kiosk to check in. That will alleviate the pressure on your front desk. Give the front desk people more time to answer the phone calls, more time to do the billings, while a patient can walk in, update their details, answer questions, and check themselves in for their appointment. SMS replies. Having the ability to reply to an SMS sent to you about your appointment and know that the patient will arrive on time, or maybe has to cancel or move the appointment by 5 to 10 minutes. It's a massive benefit for the practice to know this, because then you have your doctors being used wisely. They're not sitting there wondering why their appointment got cancelled or where their next patient is. You know, because you can see the SMS reply in your appointment book live. Digitizing your records. Every practice has a filing cabinet full of patient information. Having the ability to put that into a database and actually use that data to build reports and information about those patients is vital to the growth of a practice. It cuts on cost, and it gives you more room in the practice to even have another consulting room. Optimizing your workflow. Having the ability to decide how your workflow and your practice works. Not being told by a practice management system how you need to do things. Adapt your practice to work the way you think it's efficiently working. Have the windows and the information where you want it to be presented. Show the overall information about the patient as soon as you bring up that patient. You don't have to do 100 clicks to find the information about that patient. It's all there. And you can have a different view to the doctor down the hall from you. You might want to know other information than other doctors know. Reducing IT costs. Having a server in a practice is an expensive piece of hardware. Having your system on a cloud alleviates the pain of paying for IT to come out after hours and do updates. Having the peace of mind of knowing that your backups are done on a cloud incrementally throughout the day and not worrying that you forgot to do a backup when you closed up that night. And not worrying when the new releases come out that you have to try and do the update yourself. With our cloud solution, you have the ability to do that, and we do it all for you. You just turn up and use the software. Online messaging using a patient portal. We have an iOS and Android app that lets you interact with your patients. Not just interact with them for referrals and reports, but see how they're going. Send them the newsletter into their Android app. It notifies them. It shows them that you're actually connecting with them. Integrated billing. I was in a practice yesterday and I watched a transaction go through on an EFTPOS terminal. The receptionist puts the information through on the computer. She then took the EFTPOS terminal and manually typed in the amounts and all the information she needed to put in. The amount of errors that can happen with that. You could put $100 on the computer and accidentally put $10 on the EFTPOS terminal. Sitting there going through your end of week reports or your end of day reports and finding that you're $90 out can be a hard thing to find where the actual problem exists. So having that system where it's integrated, where you push the button and it feeds the amount straight to the EFTPOS terminal and does the transaction on the spot, is absolutely vital to helping you save time and money. Consolidated reporting. We all have the reports that we get with our software. But what about the reports I want to build myself? I want to be able to get information out of my software about my patient. With those reports, you can do what you want and how you want with the actual data you have. Expanded services. Having the software as a complete solution gives you the ability to actually expand what you have as a current way of doing consultation. Telehealth. You have patients that can't leave home or out in rural areas. You can do a telehealth consult with them via your phone or computer with webcam. requesting repeat prescriptions online. Your patient may need a repeat script. They can notify you via an app that they need a script to be repeated, and they can just come in and pick it up. Remote monitoring. Practices with people that are in aged care facilities or are again in a remote location have the ability with our software to send actual vital information back to the practice, where a nurse can actually decide on what to do with those details coming in from the patient. Blood pressure, blood sugar, weight, all those things can come straight into the practice management system. Healthcare in homes. Some of us know about this, some of us don't. The ability to treat people in their homes when they have a chronic disease. Our software is certified in the Healthcare in Homes initiative, giving you the ability to look after those patients in their own home and consult with them using the telehealth consultation mode, using the home visit. Then you've got something like corporate health. Go out into your current area and speak to the businesses and industrial estates around you, making sure that you can offer their services to them. Flu shots in the office, work placement and work health checks. It gives you the ability to branch out a lot more. Bringing services in-house, specialists and allied health. You have an area where specialists and allied health are around you. You send referrals to them. Speak to them. Invite them in. I've been to practices where allied health and specialists and the GP are all together. It's fantastic to be able to walk out of your GP's door and walk straight into your physiotherapist with your referral. Not having to go 10 Ks in a car, try to find parking, and then get an appointment. I'm not saying you have to do this, but you can also link with them as well. Create partnerships with your specialists and allied health groups around you. Invite them to events. Send them your newsletter. Increasing revenue. Use technology to reduce your consultation time. Consult the way you want to consult. Have the windows pre-populate where you want them to pre-populate. Have the information without having to click through windows and history and find allergies or last medication, what their last notes were. Have it all there on the screen in the view you want. Use reporting to identify government funding opportunities. Your data is so important as a practice. Use it. With our reporting tool built into our software, we can take that data and see a lot of things that are going on in our surrounding area and provide that to our PHN and our government, local and state, for funding opportunities. Write reports to see where your largest income and profit streams are. Decrease non-profitable streams. I'm not saying get rid of things you do, but understand what patients are coming in for. How many people came in for last year's flu shot? Make sure you have those resources for the growth and demand of your current area so you can make more money and look after your patients a lot better. Use analytics to see your demographics. If you're going to use social media and you're going to send newsletters and you're going to update your website with online appointments, make sure you have the right demographic and age group to use that and benefit from it. Understand the common issues that patients come in for using the data and the reporting that you have on hand. And the location of your patient. Like Steve said, use local paper, newsletters and information. Connect with your community. Use it to your advantage. Make sure that you know from the reports in your system that you have patients within a 5K to 20K radius. Advertise your practice in the local newspaper. Do things with the community. Get involved. That's it for me. Now we'll open up to go through questions and I'll hand it over to Karen.
Well, I think that's about it. We've covered off, we've gone a little bit over time, but we've covered most of the questions. If there's something that we've missed, I'll go back through them all with a fine-tooth comb. We'll get back to you via email. And if you have any other questions, feel free to stay around after we close off the webinar and keep asking them, that's fine. So thanks everyone for your time. Keep an eye out for our next invitation for our next topic, and feel free to give us feedback as you exit and ideas on the topics that you'd like to know more about. Thanks very much, Stephen, for your time, and thank you, Ben, also for your time.